Greetings, friends. I wanted to take a moment and share an opportunity with you that you might be and your friends might be interested in at this time of the year as we move from this closing quarter of 2019 into the opening of 2020 and beyond. As someone who's been in the people helping business for 47 years now, I am very aware of the dynamics of what people struggle with on many levels. And one area that has become prominent since the 1970s is an area that has been diagnosed and recognized as burnout, in which there are 12 stages to burnout. But it's becoming more and more a pressing problem in a day when more people are languishing than are flourishing. Within the context of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, languishing has now overtaken major depressive disorder. In people between the ages of 25 and 74, 75% of them are in a state of languishing. And there are details tied to that, but within that broad spectrum of languishing rather than flourishing, burnout plays a part as well. And burnout is a very painful condition that involves stress at a level of mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion, and physical exhaustion. In many cases, burnout is tied to work-related stress, but it doesn't simply encompass work-related stress. It can be tied to family stress, stress over caring for a loved one that's been ill for a long time, and many other dynamics. And though a majority of people struggle with burnout based on work-related stress, it is far more encompassing than simply work-related stress. And if you have ever been mentally exhausted for a short season, or emotionally exhausted for a short season, or physically exhausted for a short season, if for some reason you lost sleep for a couple of nights in a row, you know what it's like for those next few days just to try to cope. Well, imagine being in a state of constant mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion and having to cope and function and care for the people in your life and pay the bills and keep moving forward in spite of not having a sense that there's a forward to keep moving towards. If you stay in that condition long enough, it can result in chronic anxiety, generalized anxiety, and major depressive disorder. It can have impact on your physical body, and you can end up suffering from frequent illnesses that become chronic conditions of heart conditions and other things that are quite damaging to your physical well-being. Burnout is an experience internally where you feel totally, from the inside out, bankrupt of the ability to just keep going. Bankrupt of being able to make decisions clearly, of being able to interact. You find yourself easily irritable, easily tense. It is difficult to process upsetting news. You have a hard time hearing all the stuff that the media bombards you with every day. It makes it that much worse. And there's an overall sense of joylessness that's pervasive when burnout is present. And the tendency is to want to isolate yourself, much the way people that are depressed isolate themselves. And then there's this fantasy life that you develop that's a life of escape, where you create in your mind a way that it's all going to all go away, but it's a fantasy. And in that, it becomes difficult to see your way past the present moment. The good news is you can move from being burned out to being built up. And I believe there's plenty of grace and mercy and truth to bring us into a life of flourishing, a life promised by Jesus of abundance. But that requires understanding the stages of burnout. It requires understanding how you got there. And then it also requires beginning to cooperate with the energizing grace of the Spirit to move from a place of being burned out to being built up by what I'm going to call the royal road to resilience, the ability to bounce back. You do have the ability to bounce back. And the kinds of concepts that we're going to talk about have been proven psychologically. They are founded theologically in the truths of Scripture and in the truth that's in Jesus. And I am persuaded they can assist you in loosening up rigidly held overviews of reality right now that are plaguing you if you are burned out. And so I invite you, there's a place to register for this event right below this screen. I invite you to tap that button right now and register and say, Dr. Mark, I'm going to join you on Monday night, December 30th at 7:30 at the end of the year, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, because I really would like to get past this season of burnout I've been in. I'm relating to and identifying with the mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion that you're talking about, and the work-related stress or the chronic stress, and I really could use some help. And I would like to move into the new year with a positive sense of hope and a positive promise of well-being and flourishing. Click on that registration. The event will be live and it will be 2.5 hours, and at the end we're just going to take a love offering and sow what you will. But I want to be able to provide you with some keys and the assurance that this is not a permanent state, and that there are things that if you do them and are faithful to practice them and discipline yourself, you can move from being burned out to being built up and get your life back.